and it won't be very long. You'll look for me, and I'll be gone. Yeah. I'm going to a place where there's nothing left to do but just to walk around heaven all day. Yeah. Oh. When I get in heaven, I'm gonna sing and shout. There'll be nobody there to put me out. My mother, she'll be waiting, and my father and friends too. I'll just walk around heaven all day. Oh Lord, up above, hear my prayer. Be right here. Every day will be Sunday. Sabbath will have no end. We'll do nothing there but sing praises to His holy name. And when He say, "Well done," and faithful servant, I just walk around heaven. Will you meet me there? I'm gonna walk around heaven. There'll be no more trouble up there. Walk around heaven. No more sickness, no. Walk around heaven. No more dying up there. Walk around heaven. I'm gonna meet all of my acquaintances up there.
privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Heavy load, 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 heavy load. Hey, hey, listen, heavy load, y'all, heavy load. I got rid of my heavy load. Heavy load, heavy load. I got rid of my heavy
my God, to thee, oh, nearer to thee. We would sing nearer, my God. There's a story, there is song after we sing. Sometimes when you listen out a song, have been known to lift a heavy burden. Another verse. Sometimes I like to be in company, but then you know there are times I enjoy being all alone. When I go a little consolation, and you know what? I find them, and you know that they are complaining too. How about this one more time? Say nearer, nearer, my God.
loss for words. So much tradition and history is in the music. In our quartets, you hear the spirit of Africa, the trip from Africa. You hear the belief and the faith that there's going to be a better day. You know that through the singing, through the harmonies, the intonations, that we were people who believed that we could go forward. The person I'm about to introduce also believes that we can move forward. She also has faith that we will continue our legacy and lift each other up. Ms. Sandra Butler Truesdale, Dr. Reverend, a Washingtonian, I'm proud to say, a historian, a government official. There's so many things I want to say, but I smile with gladness in my heart because Sandra is a tireless presenter of facts and history. This is why we're here today. She believes in promoting and preserving the legacy of us, our music, the genres of our music. So without any further ado, Ms. Sandra, Dr. Reverend Sandra Butler Truesdale.
Thank you. Thank you. I, of course, love saying that I'm a fourth generation Washingtonian. I came out of a neighborhood real close to here, the 1400 block of Corcoran Street Northwest in Washington, D.C. I was born in a black hospital, Freedman's Hospital. Used to be on Barry Place, Northwest. I left that black hospital and went to a black neighborhood, the 1500 block of Church Street, Northwest, 1525 as a matter of fact. When my mother and father were separated by the District of Columbia government claiming that they were communists because they decided to fight racism in Washington, D.C. And that's what they did back in those days. They would charge you with being a communist and all other kinds of ignorance. We moved back to our family home at 1458 Corcoran Street, another black neighborhood. I was raised and went to a black school. I was educated in the District of Columbia public schools before there was integration, thank God. Having been educated in that black system, I learned my history, and I learned a lot of it from my father, Tansel Butler, who suffered ingeniously because of the government, because he decided to continue that fight. As I look around me, I see the same things that my father was fighting for housing, for fair employment, for equality, if there is such a thing. I still see the same thing, and it's almost 60 years ago that he was fighting for the same things that we are fighting for now. And I just needed to say that. If you saw the very beginning, you saw the African drum. And we went from the African drum to the foot stomping, hand clapping quartet, and watched how similar that music is. If you know anything about the Pentecostal church, and if you watched Lily do the dance, you will see that not only did you see that drum, but you would see that he danced almost the same dance that they dance when they are under the influence of the Spirit. So my conversation is about how we as black people have accepted this music. I remember Lucille Banks Robinson Miller on radio station WUST, Washington's U Street. That's what those call letters meant. And she taught us about the gospel quartet. She used to bring those quartets to Springfield Baptist Church and to Walter Fauntleroy's church right there on 9th Street. She built a lot for such groups as the Sensational Nightingales and also the Mighty Clouds. And the Mighty Clouds got so popular, they didn't even have to say the Mighty Clouds of Joy. If you heard Mighty Clouds, you knew exactly what we were talking about. I'm just wanting to bring you up to this music that you're hearing today is mostly the music of the Sensational Nightingales and the Mighty Clouds of Joy. So I ask you all to continue to enjoy.
My name is Kim Jordan, and to Reverend Doctor, to all of you, Lady Mary, this phenomenal group of musicians, all of you, I'm just going to talk briefly about the history of the gospel quartet. And as Reverend Doctor talked about a little earlier, the black gospel music style known as the quartet singing emerged from enslaved African experiences that were a part of our culture. And these musical influences were derived from various African song modes like Negro spirituals, Phil Hollers, Jubilee songs, coded songs, call and response. Y'all know about call and response, right? So if I say, oh, yeah, I got to do better than that. Okay, wait a minute. Let's practice this again. Oh, 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 call and response. Call and response. That's it, y'all. That's it. And so the quartet style of singing could have very easily been attributed to Roberta Martin, who was a protege of Thomas Dorsey, who was one of the major gospel innovators of the early years of the quartet genre. Martin founded with Thomas Fry the all-male Martin Fry Quartet in 1933, and it collected its members from the Young People's Choir from the Ebenezer Baptist Church that was located in Chicago, Illinois, and she served as the pianist. 3 years later, the group evolved and it became known as the world-renowned Roberta Martin Singers. The acclaimed gospel songwriter Thomas A. Dorsey, as well as a few other songwriters, proved to be very influential in establishing this early quartet sound. It was Dorsey and Martin who began to move this new gospel genre into a direction spanning from the earliest parts of the 30s, that's the 1930s, well into the latter part of the 1960s. Now you had such prominent artists as Clara Ward, the Caravans. You had male groups like Reverend Doctor talked about, the Mighty Clouds of Joy, the Soul Stirrers, the Swan Silvertones, the Sensational Nightingales, the Five Blind Boys of Mississippi. These groups were all pioneers that were introducing the world to their distinct vocal characteristics while infusing stylistic freedom to already close harmonies. Okay, what y'all want me to tell y'all what that really means? They knew how to improvise, okay? That's what that meant. Melodically, quartet songs were also known to be led by the Spirit, or as we say in today's vernacular, the singer or the singer of the songs, they were directed by whoever was singing, and they had a way of just delivering the call and response, but they did what was known by, or what was coined by Ira Tucker and Paul Owens of the Dixie Hummingbirds as trickeration. Y'all ever heard of that? Mm-hmm. Okay, come on now, okay. In the 1940s through the 60s, a quartet group began to reach, well, I should say many quartet groups began to reach their zenith, along with several other female singers who began to achieve a more global status. And these artists include such gospel notables as Mahalia Jackson and Bessie Griffith. These women helped pave the way for quartet singing and gospel music in general to morph into a newer gospel art form, including genres that we currently hear today in gospel music. So it is in this 21st century that true music lovers of all ages and generations should remember the contributions of the American gospel music quartet sound and its artists by paying them the honors that they so richly deserve. So if we can, and I know that we can we just put our hands together and thank these artists for creating the sound called quartet gospel music? All right, thank you. All right.
I just want to let you all know that there's a gentleman in the house that I worked with many, many years ago. I used to work sometimes with Lucille Banks Robinson Miller, and I was her protege, I call myself. And Winston Cheney is now on WHUR, but he spent a lot of time on WYCB. And so I'm going to ask Winston if he would come down and sit among us as we have a little discussion about this gospel quartet or gospel quintet. We have a tendency to say gospel quartet, and we forget about that guitar player that's sitting in the back playing the guitar, but he's singing with that group as well. And that was Tony, folks. And he would be singing, but we would only see those four brothers that were standing in the front, and we thought, oh, gospel quartet. So, Winston, will you come down, please? And then on my left, you know, it took me a long time to figure out which was my left and my right, and I used to have to look at my arm to figure out which one was which. On my left is Mr. Melvin Caldwell. Melvin has been in the gospel music field for, I won't tell you all how long, it might date both of us. So I'll leave that part alone. But he has, this man plays several instruments besides the fact that he sings and knows a lot about this great history, particularly the history in Washington, D.C. So Mr. Melvin Caldwell is on my left.
You want to say something?
Yeah.
Okay. Praise the Lord, everyone. Yes, well, I don't mind dating myself. I go back to the 60s. The Lord allowed me to see May 28th, I'll be 75 years old. So,
Praise the Lord.
and I started out when I was in junior high school. I played bass guitar with a group called the Divine Travelers. At the time it was the Victory Stars, who later, they formed another group called the Queens of Faith. And at that time, that I started playing bass guitar in the group, the only groups that had bass guitar players were the famous groups, like the Mighty Clouds of Joy, as was mentioned, the Pilgrim Jubilees, the Swanee Quintet. Now, the Swanee Quintet from Augusta, Georgia, was one of the first groups, quartet groups, that went by quintet because it was 5 of them that sang. Normally, you had a leader singing and you had 3 people harmonizing in the background, and when the leader would sing, his voice would be in the background to make up the harmony. You had a bass singer that before you even got the bass guitar players, and he was the one that kept the rhythm. He did boom, 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 doo, doo, doo. He just did the bass with his mouth. And later on, the professional groups began to get the bass guitar players as well. And am I going to?
Yeah, you got too deep that time.
Okay.
Because I want to introduce on my right, Mr. Manny Kellogg. Many of you may know Manny Kellogg and maybe not. But Manny Kellogg was the drummer for Billy Preston for almost, how many years?
25
For 25 years. And he came to us, the D.C. legendary musicians, by Denise Pearson, the late Denise Pearson, who was a fantastic jazz vocalist from and in Washington, D.C. And while I'm making those introductions, I mentioned Winston Cheney just a little bit, and I'm going to give the mic to him so that he can talk. But I want to also let you all know that there's a gentleman here. His name is Lonnie Dance. And I get a great deal of joy of introducing him because Lonnie has been playing for a long, long time, all the way back to a group called the Rainbows that performed in Washington, D.C. Some of you all may not even know who the Rainbows were, but I just wanted to identify him, and he's played bass with us on several gigs that we've had. Thank you, Lonnie. Just thank you for being you. Okay, Winston.
Good evening, folks. My name is Winston Cheney. I worked for 40 years at WYCB AM 1340, and I was blessed to get the job at WHUR with the passing of the great Patrick Ellis. I grew up in Danville, Virginia, and in the South, as you know, on gospel radio, all you heard was quartet. All you heard was quartet in the South. When I came to D.C., only person playing quartet music on radio was Flip Forrest and Cal Hackett, playing quartet continuously. At WYCB, they didn't like quartet, but I did. When I got a chance to, I played quartet on WYCB, and I played it for 40 years. When I got to WHUR, I'm now the only person in D.C. that's playing it on a regular basis. Love quartet. I go back to the 60s with quartet music. And it's a funny thing how the term quartet means what, 4?
4.
Quintet means 5. But now it's gone from a number to a sound. You didn't know that? It's now a sound, like go-go has a sound, quartet has its own sound. And that sound will live forever. It won't change. It's a good sound, and I love it.
Well, it's that hand clapping, foot stomping kind of thing. And I was saying earlier that the Baptist Church, particularly in Washington, D.C., they turned their back on the gospel quartets because they were still in the midst of playing the organ and the piano. And so they sort of it was kind of, oh yeah, no, we don't want to hear that music. But Lucille Banks Robinson Miller insisted on playing that music and bringing those quartets into Washington, D.C., the 5 Blind Boys of Richmond, Virginia. There's several groups of blind boys, but she would always pull Richmond, Virginia into Washington, D.C. This lady was she was a real interesting woman. She brought in C.L. Franklin and Aretha Franklin before anybody knew about an Aretha Franklin, even though you may not see that in Aretha's obit, but she is basically responsible for the up and coming of Aretha. I remember being on 14th Street in the National Press Building where YCB was for a while, and C.L. Franklin and Aretha would come in. And of course, there's some interesting stories about C.L. as well, but we won't go there. We will not go there. But I mean, he was a handsome dude, talented, and he had talented children. But anyway, that was, I learned so much from Lucille. I learned how to be a graceful woman and know how to beg at the same time. That sister could beg real good. She would tell you that she didn't want to hear no loud money. When she had her events, that meant that she wanted to see some dollar bills, and anything that was quiet money, just put it in the basket and keep it moving. But now let's just kind of talk a little bit about the men's choruses and singers in the church. Because not only did we have that gospel quartet or quintet, but we used to have the men's choirs. And New Southern Rock Baptist Church had a men's choir that you could not even believe. And there's certain Sundays that they sang. The fourth Sunday. And man, I'm telling you, they could really get it on. If you had any spirit at all in your soul, when they got finished, you know, you really knew about that. There's another gentleman here I met lately, and I've been listening to him as he sings. He sings a good bass. His name is Charlton Roney. I'm sure that they must call that Roney, I'm thinking. But if you listen to that quartet singing a few minutes ago, you could hear that bass. You could hear him doing exactly what you said that the bass singer did back in the day instead of the bass guitar.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so I did this because I want to preserve this history. If you go and if you do the research and if you Google, if you mess around, you'll see that the white gospel quartets come up on the top. When you pull up the information on the quartets, they've been doing that for years. They're thieves, they steal the music. And when you look up, they got an Elvis Presley sounding like who? Whoever. And I'm not going to get into that because sometimes I get in trouble when I go all the way with it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, my brother just told me to calm down. He did. He told me to calm down. I'm going to get calm. But anyway, so tell me how you got involved in the religious aspect of the music.
Well, I got involved back at the age of 8 years old. That's when I first started playing drums in church. And I can remember when there were no drums, there were no organ. And the only thing that my grandmother would do and the rest of the mothers, they would have them big shoes on with the big wide heels. And the only thing you would hear them doing is, and maybe every now and then a tambourine would come in, like the sister did earlier. But that's all that could last for 3 or 4 hours, you know. And nobody ever got tired. That just kept going. But that's how I got involved in it. Up to this very day, I still play some of those rhythms because it works with what I'm doing if I'm doing a good R&B gig. But I used to play a lot of those rhythms with Billy Preston. And when I started playing in church, we only had nothing but a bass drum, bass and a snare drum. So I had no choice but to play that old 1-2 beat. And it went from there. The gospel choir started doing it as far as the quartets. They started picking up that one. That's what we call it, the 1-2 beat. That's all it was back then, because it's all basically they could play it just 1-2 and keep the time. But anyway, we had a good time in church, and I miss those days of hearing some real good old gospel quartet music. And I really hope y'all would come back and do something else, because I really enjoyed it. But before that, the drum used to be used to communicate. And maybe a lot of people don't know, but way back, the drum was banned because they didn't want us to communicate and tell the rest of us what was going on out in the field. Before the drum, I can go back as far as talk to you about a Dr. Watts. Anybody know what Dr. Watts is? I see a lot of heads shaking. You remember this? I love the Lord, he heard my cry. That's a Dr. Watts. It's getting late in the evening, the sun's going down. Dr. Watts. And that was used to communicate, to tell all the field workers, gather up your work, your sacks. It's getting late in the evening. We don't want to be caught with the sun going down. Let's go. You know, then from there, it went on into the drum, which again was used to communicate. And we can go on and on and on to talk about the drum and how it is to communicate, because to this very day, as we started, the African drum came in, and it was a way of communication. The dancer knew just what the drummer was telling him to do. If he knew every move he made, the drum was right with him. They were communicating between the two of them. Anyway, that's my time, and I can go on and on. Dr. Sandra, thank you.
Well, you know, I wanted to. I think Winston probably. I saw him move his mic up. So, but go ahead, Winston.
You know, a lot of people don't realize how powerful the quartet music is, the quartet genre. I have been blessed to be on stage at Kennedy Center, Constitution Hall, Warner, Lisner, Crampton, all those stages. And I've been backstage, and I've heard the big names in gospel saying, I'm not going behind the Mighty Clouds of Joy. I'm not going behind the Swanee Quintet. The regular gospel listener will sing or enjoy the song they know. But the quartet lover will get with every song that's sung. Every time a quartet song is sung, they'll get with them. They'll stand up, sing, and shout. But people don't understand how powerful it is.
They don't. No, they don't.
I've been the voice of 7 cruise ships, all gospel cruise ships. And we had to put the quartet in a different stage because the regular gospel artists don't want to be with them. See, it's like spirited music against regular gospel music. That quartet music is something.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, and the folks, I have seen times on a cruise ship where the major artists will come to the auditorium where the quartets are, try to sneak in. I've seen Yolanda and Fred and all those say, I'm going to the quartet concert.
Yeah, do a little peeping.
Winston, you going to be there? I said, I'm hosting. Come on, let's go. They love quartet, even though they don't sing quartet. They love quartet music. It's just something about that music and that spirited beat.
It is.
That gets them. Yeah, 1-2. He knows on the ones and on the twos. Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to emphasize is us in the black church and our ability to turn our backs on certain genres of music and how we can just almost crush that genre if you're not careful. But I came out of the Church of God on Georgia Avenue, pastored by Elder Lightfoot Solomon Mishaw. That's where my background is as far as religion is concerned. And it was right there. It's still at 2030 Georgia Avenue. Used to be, Griffith Stadium used to be across the street from there. And Elder Mishaw had the first choir in this country that I know of that had more than 100 voices. As a matter of fact, it was 150 voices. And they would march across Georgia Avenue in September for their baptismal in Griffith Stadium. And Elder Mishaw, Elder Williams, Daddy Grace, were the first groups who brought the wind instruments into the church, because I told you earlier, they just wanted to play the organ and the piano. That's all they had in the church. And they then began to bring the trombone, the saxophone, and the trumpet into the church, and they would march across Georgia Avenue into Griffith Stadium. Now, on Sundays, Daddy Grace, people always remind me I should call him Emmanuel Grace. Every Sunday, they had a parade from the Charlotte Mission. If you know where the Charlotte Mission is, it's on 7th Street, just above Rhode Island Avenue. And they marched from there all the way around U Street, down 15th Street, past the old Elks home at 15th and Q. That was every Sunday thing that they did for our neighborhood and for our music. But I told that story to let you know where and when the instrument, other than the piano and the organ, came in to the black church, because I told Manny earlier, sometimes I would go to church on Sunday and it would be so sad by the time when they got finished playing that organ and that piano together, I'd be so tired and in tears, want to hurry up and go home.
Make you think about every problem you got.
And that's a fact. I met another young man with another group, and his name is Chris John. We call him Chris John. Chris can sing and play anything, everything, and with anybody. He's a great director, and I just want to salute him. He makes me and makes us be on time. He wants to tell me to shut up right now. See how he's sitting? See how he's sitting with his arm on his elbow? He's sitting that way because he wants me to shut up. You see, he said, I know.
But before you shut up, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember the Clara Ward singers?
Oh, absolutely. Clara Ward and the Mother
Ward.
Ward, and Clara Ward and the Ward singers.
Them ladies had some hats on. They would dance all around the church. They would go outside and come back in, and the hats have not fell off. They'll be in the same place, and that could, just think about. And they were dancing again to that,
Yeah.
and they'd dance all the way around the church and just have a good time. The hats would not move 1 inch. That was just something I wanted to share with you.
I'm so glad that you shared that with me because I had almost forgotten to talk about that. Because I think Clara Ward and the Ward Singers came out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I think that. And they were really a tremendous group of women who sang. But the reason the hats didn't come off was because they had wigs on and they had a hat pin in the wig. Oh, I just thought I would tell you. Okay. I mean, because they had piles and piles and piles of hair up on top, and then they had a little hat on top of that, and no, it did not move. Neither did the wig.
Yeah, that was called the beehive style. I also want to interject just shortly here. A lot of the R&B singers, like the Temptations, you trace a lot of those singers, and a lot of them started in the gospel church singing quartet or singing with the choir. So I just want to point that out, that not only the quartet was influencing the church, but a lot of the people, the R&B, some of your top singers, came out of church because that was their first platform where they were able to hone their skills in singing in front of an audience. So I just want to point that out. Not only in the black church, but also the white church. A lot of the artists started in their church also because that was their first platform.
But I'm listening to you, and isn't it interesting? Not just you, I'm guilty too, that we would sit here and say the white church and the black church. Isn't that interesting? And we're all supposed to be serving one God. Isn't that interesting that this society is so racist that when we even talk about the church, we say, it just comes out. We just say the white church and the black church. Oh, well. Moving right along.
Like he said, he was saying that a lot of the R&B singers, and he probably knows this better than I do. He probably met more of the artists than I did. A lot of guys like Johnny Taylor sang with his brother Spencer Taylor and Howie QC's.
Lou Rawls too?
Lou Rawls did, exactly. And Billy Preston played for everybody. People like the Bear Singers, sisters, and Clara Ward, Inez Andrews, the Caravans. I met Dorothy Love Coates one time. She was a pioneer back in the day. Roberta Martin singers, those are pioneers that got us started in gospel. And I'm sure Billy probably played for most of those. You probably did too. Yeah.
Do remember that a lot of this came out of the James Cleveland workshops. And so when we, on April the 8th, we will be doing a concert at the Kennedy Center on the history of the gospel choir. And all these wonderful musicians and vocalists that we have here today, hopefully they'll be a part of that choir. And we will talk quite a bit about James Cleveland. And I do want to share this with you, that James Cleveland was such a great musician, a great organizer, a great educator, that that the white establishment tried to get him to teach white singers how to sing black gospel. And he refused to do it, and they blackballed him. This is the society that we have lived in, that we live in today. I'm hoping maybe tomorrow our grandchildren and great-grandchildren may not live under these ridiculous conditions, but it happened, and it's still happening because people want that sound, but they don't want to give the credit and the equality to those people where it came from. Just saying, sometimes I get off, y'all. Y'all have to just reel me back in. Calm down.
Talk about
So I need to, Michael, have we run out of time? I want to make sure, okay. If there are any, it would have been nice, really nice if we had had an audience, but since we don't, are there any questions among those of you who are here? I found out something really wonderful today as well. I found out that our contact person here at the library, Robert, also plays keyboard. I found that out and just, I was meddling in his business. And I found that out today. And so we're going to invite him and the young man who, from the Kennedy Center, Michael, another young man named Michael, to join us as we play at the Kennedy Center. I want to see what you got, brother. You say you got it, I want to know. Anyway, so if there are any questions, would you all please ask those questions or statements or anything that has to do with this music?
Well, before we get away from the panel, I would like to just briefly give just a little history on the birth of music. It goes all the way back again to gospel. After gospel came blues. Mm-hmm. Blues gave birth to jazz. Now, how many of y'all remember bluegrass music?
I do. My grandmother sang it all the time.
Now, you know where that name came from? Just think about it. Bluegrass blues. Blues. And again, that was given birth by blues because, again, as everything else, folks take it and want to cause, they have nothing, so they take it and give a name to it for themselves. But learning the history of music is really fascinating because it gets very, very, very deep. And it doesn't just stop there. The blues was born. Blues gave birth to jazz. Jazz went into New Orleans. Blues went into Chicago, and now it grabbed, and what gospel's bringing, the quartets are still there and bringing it all back around in the pot to this very day. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit of history. Okay, I'm through.
No, thank you. I really appreciate that. Did you have something to?
I want to applaud all the quartet groups of today that's carrying on that legacy of what started yesterday. Mm-hmm. I think they're doing a wonderful job. They're making great music. But I just want to applaud the groups of today. It's doing a great job.
I'm glad you said that because even this group that you have today, they are not, a group that is a permanent group together. And when I came up with the idea that we would do it, I just chose those voices. I had heard the voices before, and I chose them, and they just fit right in with each other. And those brothers did a real good job at. So when you hear them sing with Lady Mary in a few minutes, I don't think you heard all of that. But when you hear them, they are fantastic.
Y'all need to get in somebody's studio real quick and record. I applaud you. You sound very, very good. Very good.
Okay, so first of all, I guess I want to thank all these three young men. And Winston mentioned a young man who came out of the church with me. His name is Cal Hackett. Cal is not feeling well. He really wanted to be here. He wanted to do it virtually, and I wasn't able to hook it up. But he is still in the sunshine business, and he is really a wonderful person. And that's Cal Hackett.
He's a pioneer in radio in D.C. and Baltimore. A pioneer.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
One of my all-time favorites.
You know, I think that Brother T.C. over there does a fantastic job. He was giving me that 1-2 beat. I was ready to get up and dance, man. And keep up your drum work. All of them are fantastic musicians.
He is, and he is one of those musicians that plays everything. He plays jazz, gospel, and R&B, and blues if you let him. Yeah,
the percussionist is good. She's very good too.
Tracy.
Yeah. And that's a great addition to gospel music. We never had a percussionist in church playing gospel music. Like I said, the only thing we had was the tambourine. Now look what we have, a percussionist. I think it's fantastic. Keep growing.
Mary, oh, Mary, tell Martha not to moan. Tell Martha not to moan. Jesus said, Mary, oh, Mary, don't you weep. Tell Martha not to moan. Tell Martha not to moan. There's army drowned in the sea one day. Jesus said, Mary, oh, Mary, don't you weep. Tell your sister Martha not to moan. Tell Martha not to moan. Mama said again. Jesus said, Mary, oh, Mary, don't you weep. Tell Martha not to moan. Tell Martha not to moan. Jesus said, Mary, Mary, don't you weep. Tell Martha not to moan. Tell Martha not to moan. See, there was army, drowned in the sea one day. Jesus said, Mary, oh, Mary, don't you weep. I said, Mary, oh, Mary, don't you weep. Jesus said, Mary, oh, Mary, don't you weep. Mary, oh, Mary, don't you weep. Tell Martha not to moan. Tell Martha not to I want to be at the meeting. Said I want to be at the meeting. Help me, y'all. I want to be at the meeting. When all the saints of the right and the wrong. I want to be in the number when the saints go marching home. All of my troubles will be over. Sorrow will be gone. And then we can go to the meeting around the throne.
I want to be at the meeting.
Yes, I do.
I want to be at the meeting.
Somebody gonna have a mother there.
I want to be at the meeting.
When all the saints meet after the separating of the right and the wrong. I want to be at the meeting
Around the throne.
when I get to Jordan. Walk Jordan just like a woman. I'll unbuckle my sword off of my side, stick it in the road and say, talk to God the Father, and I'll talk to God the Son, and then we can go to the meeting around the throne.
I want to be at the meeting. Oh Lord, I want to be at the meeting. I want to be at the meeting.
When all the saints meet after the separating of the right and the wrong. Church, I want to be at the meeting
Around the throne.
This is my favorite verse right here. This is my favorite verse. When I get to heaven, I'll meet my dear mother there. She'll say, God Almighty, here come my child. She must not hear my prayer. We'll be at home. We'll sing a brand new song. And then we can go to the meeting around the throne. We're gonna take it home, y'all. Take it home.
I want to be at the meeting.
Yes, I do.
I want to be at the meeting. I want to be at the meeting.
Here we go. When all the saints meet after the separating of the right and the wrong. Church, I want to be at the meeting
Around the throne. check your feet. Are we all?
The sister says she's ready for some more. But I think that what you just saw was a little bit of what Winston was talking about earlier, how the gospel quartets, that spirit that they have, and what happens when they really get down and get in it, and everybody wants to be a part of it. So thank you all. And thank you all for answering my call. I am so thankful that God allowed us to do this. It is just so important that we reserve and conserve and do as much as we can to keep this music alive. And there are two people here. As a matter of fact, Melvin Carwell sings a little quartet music as well. So I'm trying to start something. Did y'all want to, that's what I'm talking about. So can you go over there and get those brothers together and hit something for us right quick? Okay. I know that we more than likely we have to get out of here, but okay.
It's a testimony. I'm going to do my own personal testimony today. You guys can come help me out if you want. The Lord is still in the blessing business. And the thing that I'm glad about today,
now we're really getting ready to see
is that
something.
He keeps on blessing me over and over again. He keeps on blessing me. He keeps on blessing me. I'm talking about Jesus this evening. He keeps on blessing me. Yeah, Lord. Over and over again. Let me say it one more time. He keeps on blessing me. Yeah, Lord. He keeps right on blessing me. Yeah, Lord. He keeps on blessing me. Oh, yeah. Over and over again. Y'all don't mind hear me sing. I know that Jesus, He keeps on blessing me. Nobody but the Lord. He keeps on blessing me. Oh, yeah. He keeps on blessing me. Oh, Lord. Over and over again. Just one verse if y'all don't mind. What a gift it is to share in love. Independently we live on nothing but His grace. Yeah. Yesterday is gone, but today He holds out His hand. Tells Him bless us if we only take
Thank you, thank you. We want to thank Brother Ryan Williams up in the sound booth, and also to thank you so much, Robert, for sticking with us and sticking in there. And you all need to know that Brother Ryan Williams in the sound booth, he's the son of a preacher and grandson of a preacher and all that kind of good stuff, so he understands it as well. Thank you so much, James Cunningham. He is our technician, and also Mr. Randall, who was our photographer. So we thank all of you, and again, we thank you, Winston. Mr. Lawrence Randall, that is, who's taking all the pictures. So we thank all of you, and thank you so much again, Winston Cheney. It's been a long, long time, and I thank you again and again. Good night, God bless, and be safe. Oh, I forgot one thing.